Well, welcome to the first virtual manufacturing user group meeting of 2020. We had hoped to get this kicked off last month, but through some delays and some evolutions of what's going on in the user group and Trailblazer communities, we wanted to get all of our ducks in a row and kind of make sure that we had everything formatted properly and ready to go for this year. So again, welcome. My name is Andrew Rieser. I'm the community group leader for the industry-specific Manufacturing Trailblazer user group. My contact information is on the screen, and I'll put out kind of a general announcement that for those that would like to participate or present for upcoming user group events, please feel free to reach out to me or send me a message. We're always looking for companies that want to present on success stories in this space and how they're leveraging the Salesforce platform, as well as app exchange providers and vendors that kind of support this vertical. So the user group's been around for coming up on, I want to say 3 years now, and we have recently passed 600 plus members. I think as of this morning, we we're at 615 members from around the globe. So it's pretty exciting to see the amount of people that are interested in this topic, as well as Salesforce customers that are in this industrial and manufacturing space. My goal was to try to help facilitate those conversations, provide content that's of value, and ideally start getting more engagement and collaboration around the group. So our 2020 plan is the same as last year. So we want to continue to grow this community. Obviously, with Salesforce's industry focus and manufacturing being one of the, I believe, the second fastest vertical growing within the ecosystem, I think that there's a lot of great, not only product enhancements and features, but just a lot of investment going into this specific industry. So part of our goal is to help empower the Trailblazers and the folks that are admins or developers or business analysts or users within their organization. And the format is we try to have a virtual meetup every other month. And so just some housekeeping items as it relates to that is we typically try to get a mix of either a presentation from the Salesforce team. So we're working on coordinating some stuff with the industry team at Salesforce for an upcoming virtual meetup. We also, like I previously mentioned, want to get some of the community group members to tell your transformation story. It could be holistically about digital transformation. It could be product specific, best practices, et cetera. We're also going to try to bring in some industry thought leaders, so folks that aren't specific to the Salesforce ecosystem, but more specific to where the future of manufacturing is going, and have them come present. And then last but not least, app exchange partners, getting some presentations around companies that are building products through the Salesforce app exchange specific to this industry. So obviously, we're all feeling the impacts of COVID-19 right now. I think there's been a lot of great adaptation to what's going on through working from home, virtual webinars, meetups, et cetera. So fortunately for us in this user group, it is a virtual meetup. So as I mentioned, we'll record this, share this back out for those that aren't able to participate live. And then I also found some good information that the National Association of Manufacturers has put out, and Salesforce has actually put out quite a bit of stuff too as it relates to the impacts that this is having on the manufacturing space. So probably doesn't come as a surprise to those that are living and breathing this right now, but obviously there's anticipation of financial impacts, anticipation of change in operations. We have a few customers that are figuring out how to adapt and evolve and establish work from home kind of processes and procedures, and still figuring out how to be deemed essential and be able to provide their services or augment their services to support what's going on with the pandemic now. So it's been really cool to see some of that shared out through the news. So if anybody has any interest in learning more about this, I've provided the link on here, and also I'll kind of aggregate a lot of the stuff that Salesforce has put together as it relates to impacts in manufacturing, and share back out through the community as well. So knowing that we're all going through this together, if there's anything that we can do or help facilitate, please let us know. reach out, post through the community. I'm sure everybody would be more than happy to engage and collaborate during these times. So hopefully today we'll have a nice distraction from all that, and we've got two great presenters that are going to touch on some manufacturing specific use cases. So our first presenter is Billy Weisgerber. Billy's a solutions architect and is going to be taking a deeper dive into the manufacturing cloud. So there's been some demos and some documentation and information shared out there around sales agreements and forecasting. So Billy's going to take us through some examples of that. And then after Billy's done presenting, we have Holland, who's a creative director and marketing cloud specialist. And Holland's going to talk about a use case in the manufacturing and consumer packaged goods space as it relates to marketing cloud and leveraging that to get more personal with your customers and kind of bring them into the manufacturing process. So a pretty cool example there that we're excited to share. Before we get started, do we have any questions from those that are participating live?
Nope.
Very cool. And if you do have any questions as they go through their demos, feel free to either type them in the chat or interject, and we can do our best to answer those as they come up. So without further ado, Billy, I'll hand it off to you.
All right. Is it okay if I just go ahead and share my screen, Andrew?
Yep.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. As Andrew said, my name is Billy Weisgerber. So for the demo today, I'm going to be talking through two main sections. The first section is the sales agreements, and I'll be talking through the different calculation types that are in coordinates with that, along with a overview of how you can use sales agreements with direct orders and using Salesforce as a platform with orders, along with how you can make revisions within your agreement as well as needed. The other section that I'll be talking through is account forecasting. So just some general information around how to set it up, along with what account growth and market growth mean for the account forecasting within Salesforce. So I'm in my demo org right now. The sample industry that I chose today was I manufacture hiking equipment for boots and hiking poles for various stores that sell them. So I have a company called Mountain Man Co. Kind of stick with the company that I work for. But we're going to go ahead and create a new sales agreement from this account. And I'm just going to fill in the required fields that are needed on here. So you can see that all the ones that are required are the ones with the red asterisk. So I'm going to go ahead and fill these in. I'm going to set my start date to the beginning of the year. And part of this is for ease of calculation and pulling in the actuals when we go in to create a sample order. Another part of it is with Salesforce and how they do calculations for the account forecasts. They recommend putting a start date before the 12th to work better with their forecast calculations and the formulas that they use. If you use something after the 12th, then you might see some odd numbers that don't work well with your sales agreement that you put in place. I'm going to keep my schedule frequency as monthly. And I'm going to set my account to 12, which will then set my end date for the end of the year when I save it. The way that I have my org set up is with different tiered price books to kind of go ahead and set those discounts without having to type them in myself. You can use something with discounts when you put the products on the agreement, but to save some time, I went ahead and put those in there myself. So as I said earlier, there are different calculation modes for sales agreements. Today we're going to be using direct orders, but just to give a little bit background on each of these, the manually using API load, this is something beneficial as to if you're using something for your ERP and you want to pull actual data in via integration or just API callouts that you can do on a daily basis. or if you have another application that may be on the Salesforce platform that you want to be able to reference, you can do that as well. The automatically from direct orders is pretty straightforward in its name, but as long as the order is associated to the sales agreement with that account, you can pull the actual quantities from that order into the sales agreement to see the actual progress towards the agreement that you have in place with your customer. And then lastly is from orders through contracts, which again is similar to how the orders is, but instead it references the contracts that are associated with the agreement. So instead of using orders, it's just using contracts more to pull that actual information in. Before I click save, does anybody have any questions about any of this right now? All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and go into my sales agreement. And right now I don't have any products because I still need to add those. You can see how that end date got automatically generated since I put the count as 12 for 12 months. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some products. I'm just gonna choose the 4 that I have set up right now. And hit next. And right now I have these discounted prices in here, so I don't need to worry about that. I'm going to put 1,200 to give it even spread across all 12 months. And here you can see where you can put that discount percentage in if you wanted to, instead of having separate tiered price books. So now you see I have my sales agreement set up with all the different months. It shows the prior months and the next few months as well. It doesn't show the whole year, mainly to save some load time and performance. It helps with the ease of loading a screen with that. If you want to see everything, you can click show all schedules, which will then show you all the months for you. So before I can go and associate orders to this sales agreement, I need to get it approved. You can do this via approval processes, or whoever's managing the sales agreements can go ahead and change the status to approved. And since the start date is before today's date, it's actually going to go to activated because we're already in the agreement. Next, I'm going to add an order so that we can see how these actuals can appear on the sales agreement itself. Again, for it to show as an actual, Salesforce recommends that the start date be within 24 or at least 24 hours in the past. I'm going to put it at the beginning of the month just to make it easy. And then you can see it's already associated to the sales agreement here. I'm going to add my products so that I can see those actuals now on the sales agreement. And go ahead and click save. Now, before these can show on the sales agreement, the last thing that needs to be done is activate the order so that you can mark it as it's in process and gone through the system. Now that's been activated, I should be able to go back and go into the sales agreement. And it's one thing to keep in mind, it's not instantaneous. So what you have to do is just click this nifty little button that says recalculate actuals. And I like to use past and current schedules. So past means anything before this current month, along with the current schedule of what we're in. I'm gonna go ahead and click recalculate. And I'll get a notification within my org to be able to saying that the calculation process is complete. And that means I can refresh my page and see those actuals within the system. Now, since I was so successful in selling maybe more than I planned for March, and I want to adjust how the plan is for upcoming months, or I know maybe things are going up because people are getting outside more often since they're staying at home and want to do more outdoor activities, I can adjust the forecast or agreement based off of what we've discussed with the customer. So I'm going to go ahead and change some of these numbers to maybe have a better agreement based off of when they're planning to get these orders in, and adjust for later on in the year when needed. So you can see I adjusted these two right here. I'm going to go ahead and click save. And now the status is automatically changed to under revision, meaning that, again, it's being reviewed and we need to change it to either approved, rejected, or we can even say it's expired. I'm going to mark it as approved because we want to keep business going, and click save. Now you can see those are stored. If I want to go in again, I can adjust those and continue moving along. Anybody have any questions about the sales agreements currently within Salesforce Manufacturing Cloud? Okay.
So the products are all coming out of the price book, not products objects.
So products are, in order for you to get any products to appear on opportunities and orders or contracts, normally they actually need to be on a price book as price book entries. And so that's how that products get fed through to all these other objects, is via the junction of price book entries. So while it's not a direct relation for the sales agreement products, I guess is what your question is, it does pull from the price book just like orders and opportunities do. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I believe so. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So for account forecasting, there's a few things that just to kind of keep in mind when doing this. And there's a lot of different things that you can set up in terms of rules and regulations. And I'm actually going to go into setup real quick to show some of those. With that, you can show as many periods, months, in my example, that you want, along with how far in the past you want to go. Salesforce, again, makes a recommendation of having 8 periods as your most, because if you try to go past that, it'll, again, impact load time for your account screens, and along with general performance of how you may be interacting with account forecasts and how that gets calculated over time. The other piece to keep in mind is the adjustment period. So how long do you want people to be able to adjust forecasts at the beginning of each period? So you can choose to be within 15 days of the beginning month, or if you want to use quarters, again, you can set those adjustment time frames so that you're keeping your data in check and making sure nothing's getting adjusted with that. So that's in setup, and this is something that you normally do when initially setting up account forecasting for your company. now that I have account forecasting set up, I can go in here and start generating this forecast for my customer to really get into the numbers and see how things grow. Since I don't have past data for a year and 2 years ago to really get accurate numbers, we're not going to see much, but I can at least put these in to better calculate it. So the difference between account growth and market growth before I click generate. Account growth is the growth of the account, meaning Mountain Man Co. The market growth is actually the expected growth for your products that this account is purchasing. So if you don't want to measure that, you keep it at 0 or leave it blank, because blank is 0 by default for generating forecasts. But if you have a % that you want to measure by for this, with this account, you can do that as well. I'm going to go ahead and click generate forecast, and it's going to spin some wheels. I'll also get a notification for these, and you can see the forecast is generated successfully. So now I can refresh my page. And you can see how I have my total quantity for the orders for 150. If I had opportunities in here as well, I'd be able to see that, along with my sales agreement plan quantities and those consistent numbers as well. Nothing's getting calculated again right now, as I said earlier, because I don't have past data prior to this year. But what would happen is over time, it would churn those numbers and be able to calculate how much quantity is to come, or even if you wanted to change it to revenue to see how much dollars are coming in, you can see that as well, all within this screen to then calculate those numbers. Does anybody have any questions about the account forecasting?
Have you seen many companies implement this yet?
Me, myself?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
So, I mean, me directly, I have not, but I know some customers have definitely considered it as an option in terms to find that extra boost to really measure things. So some customers have more worried about the sales agreement portion than the forecasting piece, because they can find better value from that than the forecasting, and other customers have done the flip. So it really is just, it may not have been the whole suite right away, but there are customers that I've seen that have considered both, or one or the other, I mean.
Thanks.
This is Andrew. I'll jump back in. So I think a lot of customers are exploring this, but also still kind of waiting to see what additional kind of bells and whistles are going to come out through Manufacturing Cloud. So I think some of them are beta testing this and seeing how they could leverage sales agreements and forecasting. And then obviously Salesforce is continuing to put out new features and functionality related to this. So I guess a long-winded answer to, I don't think it's gained a whole lot of traction just yet, but I think a lot of customers are exploring it. All right. Well, Billy, appreciate you going through this and look forward to, as this evolves, understanding more about the features and functionality that are continuing to be added into Manufacturing Cloud.
Absolutely.
All right. Up next, we have Holland. Holland, do you want me to pass the screen over to you?
Yes, please.
Or actually, you should just be able to grab controls, I think.
All right. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
All right. Great. So what I'm here to share today is a solution we put together for one of our manufacturing consumer packaged goods customers. It's leveraging Marketing Cloud, Salesforce data, and a lot of foundational integration groundwork that had been laid. So first off, just want to give a little bit of background on client and the need. So it's a 90-year-old manufacturer of luxury textiles, so mostly bed and bath textiles. They've got quite a bit of functionality working. They've been working on their digital transformation for years now. They're run off of a custom iOS app developed by Mountain Point. They have ERP integrated on the Salesforce platform, e-commerce feeding into that, sales, service, marketing. And marketing is the last piece, or the most recent piece that they've added. So I think the big push was to really begin to communicate with their customer base in a much more personalized way. And in discussing this, and the approach was to leverage the mobile app equipped shop floor workers in order to trigger a personalized email that would send out while a personalized item was still actually on the shop floor going through the process. So this is a transactional email, and this kind of falls in between your order confirmation email and your shipment confirmation email with your tracking info. So I had a couple stills, but actually thought this would be better to just drag their site over so I can show you some of the functionality. So they've had e-commerce available for quite a while now, but have recently added a new feature for custom monogram. So just going to show you, we go to robes. Select a robe, choose your size and color, but you have this add a monogram feature. And from here, you can choose a variety of different monogram styles. You can enter in your initials here, choose your color, and with this particular item, there's only one placement, but with a lot of items, you have a couple different areas you can choose to place that monogram. Now, this is especially fun for me because the reason why it's showing you MOM is it's actually retaining that from when I made an actual order. So I got one of these robes as a present for my mom, and here is the email that was sent. So this is the personalization. This is a photo taken on the shop floor as soon as the monogram station has completed its run. The shop floor worker snaps a pic and ultimately triggers an email to the customer. So that's the front end of it. And I'm going to put this back away here and show you how this was constructed on the back end. So first of all, as I mentioned, there's a good bit of connective foundation. So their e-commerce feeds into their ERP, it comes into Salesforce, creates sales orders in Salesforce. They are leveraging person accounts for their B2C orders coming through the company website. So what we did was leverage MC Connect, Marketing Cloud Connect, which is an integration to connect your Marketing Cloud instance to sales, service, and or community clouds in order to pull in data from the Salesforce platform. So Marketing Cloud Connect is takes several users to set up, get your integration just right. But when the connector is set up properly, you have the ability to synchronize Salesforce objects to pull that data into Marketing Cloud. And we'll show you here in a couple slides what that looks like. But essentially what we did was base this whole process off of the order object and added some custom fields into that order object in order to pull in the information that we needed and ultimately produce that custom image to go out to the customers. So if we start to look at some of this technical setup, first off, this is called the Traveler. It's actually a physical printout that follows the items as they move along the shop floor. And when an item has a custom monogram, it's going to show up in this section here, and it's going to produce this QR code. So the way this actually works is when an item hits that monogram station, the attendant of that station knows that it's expected to take a photo, but they can scan this physical printout PDF, scan this QR code, and that's going to open directly to that order object within Salesforce. So at that point, they can just take a photo and upload it directly to the order object. So here is my actual order within Salesforce. And well, that's basically the contact info, but if you drop down, you'll see we've added a whole new section to the order object layout. You can see we have a couple triggers here. These are not visible to everybody. So we've got an extra safety check built in here to where the shop floor workers take the monogram photos, and those accumulate in a queue where a marketing user goes and signs off on those photos essentially. And it's the marketing users that have the visibility into the monogram journey entry trigger. The completed checkbox is just to prevent 2 emails from going out for the same object, or the same asset rather. So this is all set up in the journey entry criteria. So essentially we generate this link. We've got checkboxes used for entry, and this information is pulled into Marketing Cloud through Marketing Cloud Connect. So when you look at what that actually is, once Marketing Cloud Connect is set up, you're going to navigate to Contact Builder, Data Sources, and Synchronized, and you're going to see this is your API user that's used for that integration between the 2 clouds. So when you first have it set up, it's not going to show any entities or attributes, but you're going to click into this user, and you're going to see a screen much like this, where you would go to set up an object, and you choose from your Salesforce objects. So for the purposes of this journey, because Matuk is leveraging person accounts, that means we actually have to synchronize the account and contact object, because person accounts are sort of a mix between the 2. There are fields that fall on both of those objects that are needed for entry into the journey. And also because all of our fields of interest is in, the order number, the order date, and the monogram image itself. All of those are custom fields that are found on the order object. So that's why we need to sync all 3 to pull in all the information that we need. I wanted to show you a sample of just what one of these objects looks like as far as the fields go. You can see there's actually a pretty good block of required fields. So these are needed. You can't determine not to sync with these if you want to set up this object, but then you have optional fields which are typically your custom fields that you've created. So in summation, the outcome is we've got customers purchasing this luxury textile. They're going for this add-on, this custom monogram feature, and we're able to send them a very, very personalized email because of course it's the customer who's selected these letters and the style of their monogram, and to see that as it's still being manufactured on the shop floor, still has not shipped yet. I feel like it's a great way to kind of reinforce that feeling of luxury with these products, help with just improve on the overall customer experience, and also lay the framework for more elaborate journeys down the road. So, you know, through all these, through this functionality and these synchronized objects, you know, the monogram journey itself could be, you know, we could create additional versions of that maybe do a lot more than just send out that initial email. Maybe there's a follow-up, maybe a survey, wherever you want to go with that. But also this can apply to a lot of different scenarios as well. So essentially, with Marketing Cloud Connect, we're able to trigger these personalized journeys based off of changes to Salesforce data. And I think ultimately that was a big win for, you know, figuring out a better way to connect to their customers with a very personalized message. So does anybody have any questions about how that was set up, or anything about the process?
So I have just one quick question. Has Batuk provided any feedback as to measurement on how successful this has been, or what the general feedback has been?
Well, I mean, as far as your success metrics go, I mean, I haven't heard as far as like a survey or just general customer feedback. I know from firsthand experience, just because I wasn't positive that this was fully rolled out in production. I thought that this was still kind of in the test phase. So when I actually placed an order, I was not necessarily expecting to get one of those emails. And it was certainly nice when it showed up. But because this journey is built as a transactional email, and you know, this isn't really, there's not a call to action per se to generate revenue. It's just a method to create a better customer experience.
Got it. No, fair enough. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Alan, this is Andrew. I don't remember the statistic off the top of my head, but I think that there's been studies put out there around the likelihood of open rate and an engagement of shipping notifications, transactional emails like this versus generic kind of promotional emails that go out. So I'm pulling this number out of thin air, but I want to say it was something like consumers are 10 times more likely to open up a shipping notification or a transactional email like this versus a promotional email. So I think that's one of the other things that they were interested in is seeing if this is an opportunity to know that there's a higher engagement rate with these types of emails, to see if that also allows them to cross-sell or upsell more.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Any other questions that folks that are joining live may have before we sign off for the day?
Oh, I did want to mention one more thing, that if we are going to be having a webinar on this topic that's going to be much more in depth as far as the particulars of the setup and how these are pulled in and actually how the Marketing Cloud email template references those data extensions to pull in the link from Salesforce to generate that image link in the email. So just wanted to mention that if anybody was interested in a deeper dive into the nuts and bolts of how this solution was set up, there's the link there, but we'll also be posting this in the manufacturing user group. So just want to make everybody aware of that.
Cool. Holland, do you mind switching one more screen?
Yep.
All right. Well, for those that were able to join live today, we appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to listen in. Hopefully got a little bit of value out of learning more about Manufacturing Cloud and seeing that in person, as well as a use case in the consumer packaged goods space that Holland just walked through. We're constantly looking for folks that want to volunteer and be added to the list of for presenters. And again, that can be on existing company digital transformations, best practices, vendor presentations of their products. So please don't hesitate to reach out and put yourself in the queue if that's something that you're interested in. And like I said, we'll probably put out a survey now that a lot more people are working remote and are able to participate in more and more of these webinars. We obviously don't want to saturate it and go over the top with non-value add content. So if there is an opportunity for us to do these virtual meetups more frequently, we'll definitely explore that. But otherwise, be on the lookout for the next virtual meetup to be sometime in May. Appreciate everybody's attendance again.